Have you ever felt like you simply didn't fit in your surroundings? Are you stuck in survival mode? Have you ever felt the weight of your voice yet to be heard? If any of your answers to those questions are yes, today's guest is a voice you want to hear. She's an independent recording artist, songwriter, and founder of Protect Children New York, my hometown, by the way. You know that already. Today, we're talking about finding your voice and having the courage to use it. Let's welcome Neet to the show. Neet, good to have you here. How are you?
Oh, Swadika, Sastrikalji. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. Let's jump in. All right, so I'm excited about this conversation for a lot of reasons because you're an independent recording artist. I was one way back in the day when I was a little bit younger, and I'm definitely infatuated with the ministry. I mean, with the I guess the industry to a degree. Things have changed a lot since then. But you were born and raised in Bangkok, and now you live in New York City. Your newest song kind of talks about the journey. What would you say is the biggest challenge of living between different cultures? Any impact on identity for you or any other situation? What would you say there?
Definitely different as a child and different as an adult. As a child, yes, it was confusing because you look a certain way, but you feel another way. Like I was just
Hmm.
saying earlier, like I speak better Thai than I do Punjabi. Right, coming from this space. So yeah, they were like bullying times when people would,
Wow. Okay.
when I was bullied, and skin color was also a thing back home in Asia because I'm considered dark skin. So I used to be called Blackie. I remember in middle school. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And then, with Indians, I'm not Indian enough or something, they still consider me Thai, so the mannerisms and stuff. So it's a mix, we're our own little community called the Thai Sikhs, in Thailand. So yeah, it's okay. But now as an adult, I look at it like a blessing, that being able to be involved with so many cultures since birth, speaking these different languages, having understanding from, and then coming here to New York. And I think I had an open mind. I was very rebellious, I was into like Eminem and stuff, and that was total opposite of what my family wanted me to be, the proper Indian girl, going to school, getting married. So yeah, having all this stuff, I think it's shaped who I am today, and I love it.
Oh, I love this. Okay. So many questions with this. You know, I feel like you can answer this better than most people. And I know you probably have a great level of compassion for people who are from different places that are experiencing our culture, as in our Western culture, if you will. I'm from New York, so I know it's a melting pot. I've met people from literally around the world. I've been in their homes, eating their food. I get what you're talking about there. Do you have an insight for somebody who is maybe perhaps watching and listening today that's afraid of potentially losing part of this identity in their culture because there's so many cultures at play? Is there a approach that you have to kind of keep you grounded and not lose yourself while you have all of these different cultural mixes?
When you say that, two things come to my mind. One is like the way I was raised was very strict, right? It was religious and stuff. So it was almost like instilled in me. So it kept me grounded because I had that put in me since I was young. But then
Okay.
also the other side came up to me, that how about other people that, maybe didn't have this upbringing? How do they keep grounded? And I believe that, you can find faith later on in your life, and it could start within yourself. So even if you didn't have an upbringing that was, religious, or, it's never too late to find yourself, to fall into some type of higher power in believing in something higher than yourself. So that's how I kept grounded. I think I started meditating when I was spiraling. My mom introduced me to somebody and I started, but at that time it was not working though. It
Hmm.
was a year or two after that it started internalizing itself, that I was practicing it without even consciously knowing it, like meditating with my eyes open when I felt like I was at like the boiling point. And that has helped me a lot, the spirituality side, to keep me calm, to accept and be aware, you know, not, and not not forcing things that you can't change. I know it sounds cliche, but I understood what it meant.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. You're in a demanding industry. I'm not quite sure what the goals are as far as that's concerned. I got out because when I saw the industry changing. I said, no, this is not where I can be. But you're
Yeah.
in it and you're doing some things. What's the biggest motherhood challenge for you while still trying to maintain this path to perhaps relevance in music and entertainment?
See, I've been so blessed that this motherhood journey and this music journey and the healing journey all go hand in hand for me.
Hmm.
You know, so it's not separate things, because I do get this a lot where they're like, oh, you're juggling this and that. I'm not really, because they're all the
Okay.
same thing. Like I write songs, like Rise was about what happened to me here. To the Moon was actually a lullaby I used to sing to my son about us escaping dark places. And my dad
Wow.
always tells him like, I love you to the moon and back. So yeah, so like, so being able to put everything together, like even my education, like psychology, it helps actually that I'm like living all aspects of my life in one piece. Yeah.
Wow. You're in a good place, like you're in a good city to kind of pursue that. I love that you're not losing your motherhood perspective. I love that because sometimes people get busy. I mean, people in my circle, maybe perhaps in yours too, they got busy lifestyles and some
Yeah.
things get dropped. And it's usually the important things that get dropped as opposed to the things that we just personally want. So I love that. You're doing work, advocacy work through Protect Children New York. I'm definitely interested in hearing a little bit about what is Protect Children New York. 'Cause I got family in New York still, got loved ones in New York. So I'm like, what are you doing out there and how are you helping people?
So you see, coming from Thailand, where there wasn't much women and children's rights advocacy resources for DV, I believed that women and children had a voice, and that was part of my whole like freedom of expression project coming over here. So fighting against my own society, that America is the place where there's justice for women and children, and then becoming the victim of coercive control and DV, then going to family court and having like them not serve the justice that I thought America had. That was
Hmm.
really, that was really what broke my heart, because I fought against everybody and everything, that America's the best place. America's the place where women and children are saved, and we have rights. And then when I go to the court pleading for my child, they're not looking at the best interest. It's like a chess game.
Hmm.
Who has the better attorney? And if you don't have the money for an attorney, or you don't, like, I'm pro se right now, so you don't stand a chance, and you end up watching your child deteriorate over the years, and you have to deal with your abuser continuously, because you have to be there for your child, right? And you're trying to save your child. And this is how my son actually was the whole reason I even got to do music again, because while I was in that relationship, when you're in a narcissistic abuse relationship, they wipe you off the planet of the earth. You don't even have an identity anymore. So it took me years, when I watched my son getting hurt, for me to get up and be like, okay, this is it. I can't do this. I'm feeling like I'm not being heard. So that's when my producer told me to write it down, and the song Rise came about. And then when I got to shoot the video, I took my son back to where it actually happened. Where the narrative started building, where he threw me at my own house, took my child, and as a foreigner, I had no clue what was happening. So that was a healing process for me, being able to like first get the strength to get up again and fight for something that's bigger than myself, and then to get back to Protect Children. And why I thought that my story was very unique, like I was making excuses for the court. I was like, they didn't understand this because it must be so difficult to understand, it must be so different. Then I started seeing on social media that this is happening all over, and some people are
Absolutely.
worse than me, you know and it's not only in America, it's in the UK, Australia, Canada, to the point where the UK is taking the family court to the UN for human rights violation right now. And these things are just coming to light. So I wanted to bring awareness to the court, because I'm like, how is the court not being updated and not being aware of mental abuse? Just because we cannot go in with the cuts and bruises doesn't mean it's not happening. And it's even worse because it's undercover, and when the child doesn't even know what's happening to them. It's your job to protect them from what they can't even comprehend yet. And for the fact that the court allows that to happen, and by the time the child can verbalize and tell what happened, their whole childhood is gone.
Mm. Is there another psychological impact that you see from somebody who may feel like their voice is not being heard, especially in the systems will be designed to protect them? Do you see any long term? I'm not asking you to be a doctor or anything, but do you see like long term psychological impacts that our audience might get value from? Can you share some of those?
Yeah, what I see is like it's a continuous thing. You cannot heal while you're still in something, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So what I see is a trauma bond building between like my child and the person who's hurting them. And the worst part is the silence. The fact that you're taught silence, like for example, when I was in domestic violence, I didn't speak up. I didn't have the mind of my own. I didn't have the strength. But then when that happens to the child, that's
Mm.
even worse, because now when the child is in pain, they don't tell you. If the child is sick, they're scared to tell you. If the scout, like, I've seen it happen to my own child, where I have to look for if he's okay. If something is too tight, he won't even tell you because he's that scared. So and then is and it's called trauma bond because they will not speak bad about the abuser because they're so scared of the consequence, especially when they're constantly told, oh, you coming back to me, you're going to be dealt with you know so for people that are going through this, really, like, it's best that at the same time that while you're dealing with this, to get the help, the support, because until and unless family court understands and changes, there are families and children being impacted every single minute of this. Every time we have to wait for the next court date, that's our children's lives going by day, week by week, milestones being missed, over lies, which is not fair. And I'm not even going to just speak for myself because other people are going through worse than me. At least I get to see my child. There are some people that don't even get to see their children.
This is powerful in a lot of ways, and I definitely I feel like I might have brought the vibe down of the show, but this is so powerful and so important.
Yes.
Want this put out here. You mentioned the family court a couple of times, and I mean, just living in my hometown when I did, I saw enough to know that the system wasn't the best. I doubt very highly that it's changed a whole lot since then. I hope it's improved, but from what it sounds like from you, not by a lot. Is there some answers that you found that perhaps mothers or families that are dealing with that right now can have something that may not totally solve the problem, but maybe provide some relief, some encouragement for them while we wait for the family court to get it together? Perhaps is there some things that they can do in the meanwhile that you found helpful?
Yes. What helped me was reaching out to people. There are so many amazing women and men out there because this is happening to mothers, yes, but it's happening to fathers as well. So we need to address the facts of both sides. So there are these wonderful, amazing men and women online that are helping, people like me or my children that are going through this to kind of navigate. How can we address this to the court because the court doesn't see this? So they're giving us, ways to document, or even there are psychologists that are so amazing online that are helping, that are just openly willing to give help to mothers and children or fathers and children that are going through this in real time. So I really encourage people to use this to their advantage, that nowadays we have social media, we have this platform where there are people, there's a community of us out there that are so open to helping, like, so yeah, that's how I have been able to find my ground in this as well. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. It sounds like you're kind of coming into your own a little bit and you're figuring some things out and you're discovering some purpose because you speak very strongly and passionately for these families. So if you're doing something to help them, well, you all do Protect Children New York. I mean, even beyond that, you're definitely doing something great. If you can kind of just take a moment, take a beat to assess where you are right now, all that you've accomplished, all the great things that you've done, all the strides you made personally in your character, psychologically, emotionally, and everything. What would you say to the younger Neat in maybe a couple of sentences? What would you say to her? She's listening to you right now. What would you say to her that maybe perhaps the benefits of your wisdom and insight and what you've grown into now, if it could help her, what would you say to her?
That got me emotional because I feel sad to have to tell her what was gonna be ahead that I would had had to face. But I would also tell her that God had a purpose. That that music that you want to do, there was something behind it that God wanted, you know. And I knew that. See, now that I do music from when I did it back in Thailand, is so different. Because back then I was singing, just singing happy songs, performing and collaborating. Now there's a message behind my music. And
Mm.
when I see like, oh, my song was on Times Square, this and that, for me it wasn't like, yes, I made it as an artist. It was like, now we got that platform. Now voices can be heard. Now I can give back to that same community that is out there supporting people like us. Now I have something to give back to that community, you know? Yeah.
Love that. Love that. All right, so at this show, we kind of end the show with what I call a mirror check. It's kind of what we do. It's a chance to kind of speak to the people. You can go from deep in the heart as you want to. You're speaking to people who maybe in all types of situations. They may see it live today or maybe on a replay. But for the person need who's listening, who's lost their voice, maybe because of a relationship issue, family situation, cultural expectations that you talked about, and that trauma, definitely a big deal, or just even just years of putting somebody else first instead of themselves.
Yeah.
What do they need to tell themselves when they finally look in the mirror and say, you know what? Now they face to face with who with themselves now. What do they say to themselves? What do they ask themselves? What's the question they need to ask themselves when looking in the mirror now?
See, you have to be able to look at in the mirror and see yourself first. If you look in there and it's a blank and you're unable to answer your own questions, then how are other people going to see you? Right? If you see yourself as a blank, that's exactly how you see. If you look in the mirror and you're like, "Who is this?" Right? And you can't answer that question, that is why people are going to fill in the blanks for you. That's where narratives are created. That's where people start taking advantage of you. But when you recognize that this is me, like, I'll tell you about myself. When I was learning about myself again these last couple of years, because I literally forgot who I was, I every
Wow.
little thing was amazing. Like the way I laughed, I was like, oh yeah, this is funny. Or I was like, oh wow, I actually like having this conversation. Or such little things came back in pieces until I could look in the mirror and be like, that's me, you know? And now when people see me, they're going to see exactly what is written already. There's no empty blanks here, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I want people to look in the mirror, and it's okay not to know it in the beginning. We are human beings. I always tell my son this. It's okay to make mistakes. I mean, we would have been gods and gurus by now if we were perfect, right? We are all human. We are humans, so we're allowed to make mistakes. But how we learn, what we do after that, that is really, who you are. It's not your mistakes. It's what you do after your mistakes. So it's okay to not know who you are. Just take little pieces, fill them up, until you get fulfilled. Anybody can get there.
I love that. It's been a pleasure to have you on this show. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. If I'm not mistaken, congratulations on order, right? August 14th is a big day for you, right? Do I have that
Yes,
right?
yes,
Your
Bangkok,
new
New
release,
York from
Bangkok to New York, is coming out on the 14th.
yes, this
Tell
Friday.
everybody about it real quick. Go ahead.
Yes, Bangkok to New York will be on all platforms this Friday, August the 14th. Watch out for that. That's the story of me from my hometown to here.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And you can learn more about Need and support Protect Children New York through the link that's on the screen right now or in the show notes and episode description. If you're not watching live and you're catching us on the replay, that link is in this linktree/Need Music. Thanks again for being here, Neat. And if this episode resonates with you guys at all, share it with somebody who's navigating identity, motherhood, cultural expectation, diversity, or they're just trying to find their voice again. If you ever felt like your story didn't matter, Remember this. Your story may be the very thing somebody else needs to hear. And the difference between you, who you are and who you could be is always found in what you do every single day. That's Neat Music. I'm Mr. U. Thanks for watching the Call Me Mr. U, the podcast. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you on the other side.